not a big deal. I'll do it once I'm done.
You have to do it now.
You can't order me around. You're not my parent or my boss.
Of course I'm not, but this is my house. If you don't agree, then move out.
Ella and Chris were stunned that they had tried to rent the same apartment. Ella pleaded with Chris to let her have it, but he only laughed.
Why do you think I would accept that?
Because you have other options. You can stay with friends. My parents are choking me.
Choking you in what way?
That's my personal business.
Chris refused to leave the apartment for her but suggested they share it until she found another. Tired of living with her parents, Ella quickly agreed. When she told her parents, her mother was delighted, saying it was a sign from God that something good would come out of it. Ella firmly rejected her mother's idea, making it clear that their personalities were nothing alike. The next day, Ella moved in with the help of movers. She was glad she arrived first and chose the master bedroom. That night, she slept peacefully in her new space. But the following day, after work, she returned to find Chris already moving in. He confronted her and demanded that she vacate the master bedroom because he believed it was meant to be his. Ella stood her ground.
I moved in first.
I paid first.
Ella couldn't believe his arrogance. Angry and exhausted, she gave up and moved into another room. As she settled in, she laughed bitterly at the thought of her mother expecting something good to come from this. To her, Chris's bad boy attitude was proof enough that her crush was gone. She would always prefer a good boy, someone who would have given her the bedroom without a fight. The next morning, as she rushed out to work, she bumped into Chris working on his laptop. She ignored him and left. Chris only laughed. Later, when his friends visited, Chris spoke negatively about Ella's personality and made it clear that he wouldn't stoop low for her. His friends reminded him that she had once been his childhood friend and that getting along should have been easy, but he dismissed the idea, insisting that they had grown into completely different people and were now practically strangers. The conversation shifted quickly as his friends decided to plan a house party to celebrate his relocation. That evening, Ella returned home to loud music blasting through the apartment. The living room was filled with people partying. Furious, she searched for Chris but couldn't find him. She marched to the master bedroom and barged in without knocking, only to find him making out with a lady.
Have you heard about knocking?
And have you heard about being a responsible man?
What responsibility had to do with throwing a house party?
A responsible man would go to work in the morning, come back tired, and rest, not throw parties and sleep with some hoe.
The lady in the blue dress erupted in anger, storming out of the room to confront her after feeling insulted. Chris quickly stepped in, calming the woman down and guiding her back to the living room before the situation could escalate further. As soon as the lady left, Ella continued, furious, about how he had thrown a party without her consent. Chris stood his ground.
This is my apartment. You're just squatting here.
You can have the house to yourself. I'm moving out.
That's a great idea. I don't want to live with a bitter person.
Ella heard him clearly. Later in her room, staring at her reflection in the mirror, she asked herself if she truly was a bitter woman.
What is wrong with being self-focused?
She tried hard not to allow Chris's comment to get into her head. She believed nothing was wrong with her. After freshening up, she ordered her dinner and went to bed. The next morning, as she was leaving for work, Ella met Chris tidying up the living room. As she was trying to snub him, Chris asked her when she would be moving out of the apartment. Ella was short for words as she remembered saying that when she was bashing the previous night. The last thing she would ever do was go back to her father's house.
I'm not expecting to see you this morning. I thought you would have gone.
I would move out when the agent got another apartment for me.
Chris burst into laughter knowing she had no choice. Ella tried to ignore his laughter and stepped out. Days passed, and Chris and Ella continued living in the apartment without ever finding common ground. They stayed out of each other's way, each trying to mind their own business. Yet curiosity crept in at times. Chris often wondered if Ella had any life beyond going to work, while Ella questioned whether Chris lived responsibly at all outside his constant social activities. One day, a lady came to visit Chris, but he wasn't home. Ella stepped out to inform her, and the lady asked if she could wait for him in the living room. Ella refused, leaving the visitor shocked and angry as she walked away. Ella, however, saw nothing wrong with her decision. She was already frustrated by how often Chris brought visitors while not a single person had ever come to see her in the apartment. When Chris got home and learned what Ella had done, he was furious. He confronted her about chasing his visitor away, but Ella explained that she couldn't allow a stranger to stay in the apartment while he was absent. Despite her explanation, Chris couldn't control his anger and left, already planning to get back at her in his own way. A few days later, Ella was not at home when a delivery man arrived with a package for her. Seeing an opportunity for revenge, Chris told the delivery man to take the package back, claiming that Ella no longer lived in the apartment. When Ella returned and discovered her package was missing, she called the delivery man in frustration. She confronted Chris angrily.
You are immature, irresponsible, and a complete lazy man.
And you are a workaholic, lonely and bitter woman.
They shouted, their voices rising sharply as tension pushed them to the edge, each one feeling as though the other was clawing at their very throat. The next day, a Saturday, Chris's mother came to visit while he was not at home. Ella spent time with her, keeping her company and sharing a few pleasant moments. When his mother asked what it was like living with her son, Ella pretended that they got along well, hiding the tension between them. When Chris returned, he was surprised to find Ella with his mother. What shocked him most was that she greeted him politely and asked about his day. He decided to play along, knowing how worried his mother would be if she found out they were not getting along. Chris's mother had a heartfelt conversation with them about their personal lives, asking questions that made both Chris and Ella feel awkward as she tried to find out if they had any feelings for each other. They both denied it. She then reminded them of their shared childhood, recounting amusing and memorable stories they might have forgotten. Despite her efforts, Chris and Ella still struggled to connect and failed to form a closer bond. After Chris's mother left, Chris and Ella returned to ignoring each other and keeping to themselves. On Sunday, as Chris prepared to go to the gym, he asked Ella to handle the chores and tidy up the entire house, pointing out that he had been doing all the cleaning while she was always busy with work. Ella said nothing, and Chris left. When Chris returned, he discovered that Ella had done nothing. Anger rising, he went to her room to confront her. When Ella let him in, he was shocked to see the room in complete disarray. Furious, he reacted angrily, expecting that she would have tidied up the entire house before his return.
It's not a big deal. I'm going to do it once I'm done.
You have to do it now.
You can't order me around. You are not my parents or boss.
Of course, I'm not. But this is my house and I decided to share it with you, so we have to share the responsibilities of making it clean. If you don't agree, you should move out, get your own apartment and do it the way you want it.
Ella scoffed at his threats, thinking to herself that she had never met a man as full of himself as Chris.
Get up now and tidy up the whole damn thing, including your nasty room. Everything is not about career or work.
His words hurt her so much that she replied,
How would you relate because all you do is spend your parents' money, and the only responsibility you have is tidying up a rented apartment while your mates are out making cool money?
She shouted in frustration, but Chris simply laughed, choosing to ignore her outburst. Chris could only wonder if she would continue living with such attitudes and silently prayed that he would never end up with someone like her as a spouse. Meanwhile, Ella began cleaning the entire apartment in anger, feeling that the time she was spending on chores would be better used on her work. She decided that next time it was her turn to tidy the apartment, she would hire a cleaner. The next day at work, Ella grew even more furious when her father announced a new project, revealing that her colleague John's team would likely be in charge. Hurt and heartbroken, she confronted her father with tears, feeling betrayed. She believed that she and her team deserved to handle all the contracts, yet John was given everything. Her father, hiding any sign of remorse, insisted that she would not be entrusted with any company projects unless he saw changes in her social life, specifically by getting into a relationship. Her colleagues had started to look down on her, as everyone now admired John. Embarrassed by her father's actions, Ella left the company immediately and returned home feeling devastated. Finding the apartment empty, she collapsed in the living room, crying and sobbing. A few minutes later, Chris returned home and was surprised to see her car in the compound. His concern grew when he entered and found Ella crying in the living room.
What's wrong, Ella? Why are you crying?